What's up, YouTube? So today's topic, I'm gonna talk about this decision makings when it comes to life, right? So as human beings, we all have choices. We all have decisions we need to make, right? Um, so I'm in a situation to where if if I should continue to participate into this system, meaning like, or should I just go against the system? Because there's two scenarios that I'm thinking about. Because one, well, based on my research, apparently there's so many perspectives when it comes to the human experience, right? So one perspective is very disturbing. So I've done some research, and there's some people talk about how like human experience is actually like kind of like a trap, and it makes sense too. I'm not saying it is, but this is what I've researched. So but basically, overall, like the human experience, is basically a trap, and we have evil ass entities like demonic entities, and the Rothschilds, the um, and these other fucking names I can't fucking say. I forgot how to say their names, but these see these bloodlines, these corrupt people in power, the government and shit like that. Apparently, they have ties to demonic entities or negative entities, right? And these negative entities, along and the corrupt government that work for these entities, that's the reason why the corrupt government, they do like blood sacrifice rituals, and they do a lot of like pedophilia, and the Rockefellers and Rothschilds, that's their names. Um, and 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 they use human beings as slaves to feed their system and shit like that. And it makes sense because and they feed off of human suffering and human energy. So this is why a lot of human beings, we're all slaves working for these 9 to 5 jobs. We're slaves being forced to go to school. Even if you break free from the system, you still can't do that because how this world is built in a way to where like everything is set up for human beings to be slaves, pretty much. This is why when you try to break free from the system, you're not gonna have a house, you're not gonna have food, water, shelter. You're gonna struggle. You're gonna go through a lot of suffering because the system isn't built around freedom. It's built around enslavement. Um. So yeah. Because as human beings, we require food, water, shelter, clothing, connection, etc. Right. So I'm thinking like, oh shit. So like, are we really like being used as cattle to to it makes sense though, because like if you observe every person's life, I'd be observing every person's life. I'd be observing my life as well. Why is it that a lot of human beings go through suffering when it comes to relationship trauma, emotional trauma, mental health issues, and heartbreak? And on top of that, there's a lot of enslavement because we don't like working. We don't like being forced to do things we don't want to do out of survival. If we were to do things that doesn't require survival, or like basically if we live in a free world, if we have free land, if everything wasn't corrupted, in my opinion, we would love to work because we're working for a purpose. We're working to build our community. We're working to build a community. That's what it is. Like if this world was free, I feel like human beings will be more creative. They'll be more unique and able to work around their talents and their gifts in their own way. But because we live in a world that's the opposite of that, we're being ruled and controlled by evil ass entities and people. We're forced to work, but not in a way to where it benefits us. We're doing it out of survival and out of fear. So there's a difference between working out of love and working out of fear. As human beings, we're working out of fear. This is why no one wants to do it and no one likes it. And in the aftermath of that, the result is that it creates a lot of people who are narcissistic, people who commit crimes, and people who go crazy. This is why there's a lot of generational curses. This is why there's a lot of narcissistic people. There's a lot of crimes because people have to do things like rob banks and stuff like that. And Chauncey went on his YouTube channel. He talked about this too. He made a good point where like if we live in an unstable system, then it makes sense that there's going to be a lot of crime and criminal activity and stuff like that. Also, if my video stops in the middle of me talking, it's because uh, every fucking month or every 5 months or at a random time, my phone runs out of storage. and so then I always had to sync my iCloud to my photos or videos because it's taking most of the storage, and I can wait for it to load. But every time it'll be completed, it'll last for like a couple months, and then for some reason it'll go back out. I don't know why it does that shit. So I don't know when this video is gonna close, and it sucks because whenever I go deep, whenever I'm like locked in, then that's when it just closes, which sucks. But whenever I'm tapped in, I mean, but yeah, so like, if we're dealing with all this corruption and all this bullshit, in my mind, I'm like, okay, should I continue working for the system? Because at this point, like, what about God and the universe? Like, don't they have our backs? Like, isn't God and the universe, aren't they supposed to support the human, aren't they supposed to support us? This is why my videos, I'm not saying I'm right, but this is why I blame God and the universe, because I genuinely believe that they are responsible and they are allowing this human experience to be shitty. There's a lot of human suffering. Like, I feel like there's a lot of things I want to mention when it comes to my research, when it comes to the things I've seen, when it comes to spirituality and stuff like that, but it's gonna be a long video, and I don't feel like breaking it down. I really don't. But basically, what I'm saying is that there's a lot of puzzles and there's a lot of things that people aren't really talking about, but they're just saying things based on their perspective or based on their outlook. But they're not putting two and two together, and that's what's wrong about spirituality. That's what's wrong about most of these spiritual channels. These people, yes, they talk about corruption. They point out the issues of this world and the issues of the human mind and body and the human experience and the human behavior, but they're not really putting two and two together, meaning they're not researching other YouTuber channels, they're not observing life, and they're not coming up with multiple conclusions. They just have like a set what's the word? I can't find the right word, man. But they're stuck in their own way. They're not thinking outside the box. And part of my channel, I'm not trying to be better or I'm not trying to be different. No, but I feel like what helped, the reason why my channel is kind of different in a way, because I like to dish out different perspectives from different people's outlook when it comes to life and spirituality and why life is the way it is, pretty much. I'm gonna make more about this in the future, but pretty much, so you have a lot of generational curses, a lot of generational trauma, right? So you have certain human beings that were born into very dysfunctional families so they could break these generational curses, right? So and other people are saying that God and the universe, they've volunteered these souls to come in and reincarnate into these families. They're chosen to come down here to break these generational cycles. Some people say it's spiritual warfare and stuff like that. Okay, fine, but technically, doesn't that make it God and the universe's fault for bringing, certain souls into reincarnate into these narcissistic family bloodlines so they can break generational curses? So technically, are they meant to experience suffering? And if that's the case, if God orchestrated it, then technically, isn't God responsible for allowing human suffering, pretty much? So that's what I'm trying to get at. Like, people, you know what I'm saying? I don't understand. So this is why my videos, I blame God and the universe. I mention that a lot because, yeah, if you actually study spirituality and if you observe different people's perspectives and shit like that, all this shit is pretty much orchestrated by a higher power, So that's what I'm trying to get at. But now I'm gonna go into a different topic. But people were saying that the reasons why they don't want to bring a kid into this world, because basically human beings are forced to work out of their will, so meaning they're slaves, like we are slaves. He talks about there's a lot of heartbreak, there's a lot of trauma, there's a lot of mental health issues, which is true because every human being goes through heartbreaks multiple times. A lot of human beings go through relationship issues, they go through trauma, and they go through all this bullshit. Now, on top of that, we live in a corrupt system that's very flawed. So you're constantly in survival mode trying to make ends meet. You're working most of your life, taking in most of your time and energy, but you're not getting any money, as much money in return to help compromise the amount of work you put in, i.e. minimum wage. And not even just minimum wage, but these other jobs that pay people pretty much. They don't compromise enough. They don't. And what makes it worse is that you have worse situations going on in these third world countries. So you're pretty much in a rat race to where you're working. It doesn't give you enough money for you to be free, but gives you just enough for you to sustain yourself in order for you to clock in to the next work day. This is why you see people who have been working at the same job for like 40 years their whole life. It's because they got stuck on that rat race pretty much. And I feel like if you are to break free from this world, if you are to break free from this system, it's going to be very challenging because, like I said, this whole world is built off of enslavement. So it's not going to support you. It's not going to back you up when you refuse to abide by the system. If you choose to be free and live on your own terms, your money is going to be taken away. They're going to take your car. They're going to take your house. They're going to kick you out the house and stuff like that. Right when I was talking, I saw 11/11. So I don't know, that's a synchronicity or something. I don't want to think about it too much, but I thought that was interesting. But